And you're good.
You know, I said this at the beginning of the lockdown, the beginning of the panic back in the spring. I said, you know who's going to thrive during this time, this tumultuous time, is my man Turtleboy, because he's going to catch people who are cheating and lying. He's going to catch some of these hypocrites, and he has. He caught Karen Polito, but now there's a whole army of Turtleboys out there, and we look forward to them catching these hypocrites because they're out there, man. And the latest was Gavin Newsom. He might be the face of the tyrants who say, do as I say, not as I do. We're going to give Turtleboy credit because everybody's whipping out their phones and catching these frauds, and it's a wonderful thing. It's a good development. And there's so many bizarre examples of hypocrisy in this upside down world we're now living in. I just saw a tweet from Rage Against the Machine, these rebels, these anarchists, these socialists who put out a tweet and said they're now working with the Joe Biden transition team to encourage their fans to wear masks. And today we'll tell you how stupid that is, because to no surprises of mine or most of you, that a new study, a comprehensive, thorough study out of Denmark, shows that masks are useless. Just an accessory, a fashion accessory is all they are. We got Andrew Cuomo melting down, which is no surprise. It is another fun part. You know what we're going to do today? We're going to talk about all the fun we're having during COVID, because watching Andrew Cuomo melt down in front of the world is a lot of fun. And Jim Nantz is not the former fullback for the New England Patriots. He's no longer with us. The announcer is demanding to make more than just about every player in the NFL. We'll give you the details on that. And bad news for me and for lots of you. Looks like walking your dog gives you COVID. Yesterday it was Christmas trees give you COVID. Now it's your dog. When will this crap end? We'll get into all that on the Callahan podcast today. Brought to you by DCU. Why do DCU members love their free checking accounts? It's simple. No monthly maintenance fees, no minimum balance, no strings attached. What's better is with direct deposit to their free checking accounts, DCU members can get paid up to 2 days early. Zero monthly maintenance fees, zero monthly balance, zero reasons not to switch. They'll even remove the hassle of switching your direct deposits and automatic payments from your current checking account. Learn more and make the switch today at dcu.org/free checking, insured by NCUA. Membership required. All right, Collinade's here. Turtleboy is here. Do you feel like, you're the father of this movement, the citizen journalists who are whipping out their cameras during the riots and the looting from Black Lives Matter and Antifa? You and I talked about Andy No and Elijah Schaefer and these guys, Drew Hernandez, these young guys who are just the last real journalists. But you've been doing it for quite a while, and I feel like every day I'm expecting you to catch one Charlie Baker, governor of Massachusetts. I have no doubt that he's not actually living the rules that he foists upon the rest of us. I have no doubt that he's as big a hypocrite as any of these guys. Are we going to catch him doing something, Turtleboy? My prediction was he's going to visit his elderly father in the nursing home. You're not allowed to visit your elderly fathers and mothers and grandfathers and grandparents, but you know that he's found a way to visit his. Could you please do me a favor?
I feel like we already have caught him. I mean, at the state police graduation, literally the first day in which a mask mandate was put in place, he was not wearing a mask at the graduation. So we caught him like the first day. But of course, Karen Polito is having huge bangers at her house. Nothing comes of that. And there was no need for oversight, apparently. So, I mean, that's his administration. If Karen Polito does it, that counts as Charlie Baker.
If this were 10 years ago, Jerry, do you think the Herald would have somebody following him to try to catch him?
Yes,
the Herald would do it, but do you think the Herald would? Yeah.
Unfortunately, and this is, I guess, fortunate for Aiden and for guys like him, is newspapers are dead. They're either on their last legs, like my former newspaper, the Herald, which was once great, but it's struggling. And then you have former newspapers like the Boston Globe, which are just now, arms of the Democrat Party. They're just political pamphlets. They're not real newspapers. There are no real news reporters left. We will get to the guy at the Wall Street Journal, because that might be he might be one of the last reporters out there, and his exchange with the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, which is priceless. I mean, it's priceless to see these guys, these scummy, sleazy bullies, getting exposed is a lot of fun, and I hope they continue to keep the pressure on Cuomo, who by the way, he blames, as we know, blames everyone but himself. He's blamed Trump. He's blamed nursing home workers. He's blamed patients themselves. His latest was that you don't get coronavirus unless you put yourself in a position to get. I'll get the tweet to get it. And he says, if you eat that cheesecake, you're going to get fat. This is a guy who everybody knows killed tens of thousands of senior citizens in New York. I mean, Democrats don't care. They still love him and they'll still support him. But literally,
all those dead people did vote for him too. So he's got that going for him.
Good point. But he literally put, and it's more proof. I'll find it here. It's more proof that he is absolutely losing his mind, which is great to see. He didn't tweet it. He said it. Here's Governor Cuomo yesterday on his new rules, new rules for whatever, no school and no gatherings over 10 and all that. He says, if you're socially distant and you wore a mask and you were smart, none of this would be a problem. It's all self-imposed. If you didn't eat the cheesecake, you wouldn't have a weight problem. Now, that's not a guy in a sound mind. This is a guy we know is responsible for killing tens of thousands of seniors. We've seen the report, the edict saying, put those patients in the nursing homes. So we know what he did. And he's blaming you for not being socially distant or wearing a mask. And the people
did you see your favorite Janice Dean's tweet at him this morning? That was
great.
Yeah, then you must have delivered a bunch of cheesecake to the nursing homes.
Yeah, I mean, she just hounds him every day, and it's a wonderful thing. And she's just a weatherman, but she's become an advocate. And she's become an advocate for voiceless victims, senior citizens that have been killed by the governor.
Yeah, her in-laws died in a nursing home. So she takes it personally. I believe, right? Yeah.
Correct. And she's become...
But you know what, Jerry? This is what we need more on the right is like they are cartoon villains on the left, and they just don't care. Like Nancy Pelosi is just like, she gets caught red-handed getting her hair done without a mask on. And what does she do? Demands an apology.
Right.
And that's how you do it. Demand an apology from them. No. I did nothing wrong. You did something wrong. I'll expect an apology by noon. Our side needs to do that more. Instead, we come up with police reform bills and we rename, naval bases in North Carolina so as not to offend Black Lives Matter. That's what I said.
And we say we have to we don't want to leave Afghanistan prematurely. We'll get to that, but you're right, because she not and along those lines, and she not only demanded an apology, but her surrogates, her people, harassed this spa owner, the hair salon woman, put her out of business, threatened her life. I mean, they don't mess around. You take a shot at the queen, you better better hit her. They didn't take her out. They didn't take her out. The poor woman who was just trying to make a living, cutting hair in San Francisco, they did ruin her business, put her out of business, tried to ruin her life, because that's what they do. They play for keeps. You're 100% correct. We don't. We have pussies like Mitt Romney and Ben Sass on our side. But I want to get to them. I want to get to Gavin Newsom first, though, because this is so perfect. And I don't know if it changes anything. It probably doesn't, but it has to wake up a certain number of people. It really does. Because what Gavin Newsom did is just, you mentioned cartoon villains. This would be the ultimate cartoon villain in this whole COVID panic, this whole, surreal lockdown or, third lockdown, whatever we're going through. When he goes on, and we went through the ridiculous rules in California. This is the guy, by the way, Gavin Newsom, who said that you should wear a mask while eating dinner, pull it down, take a bite, put it back up. That's how fanatical he was about masks. That's how important masks were. Who said you can't have more than 10 people inside or out. Who said you can't have a gathering on Thanksgiving that lasts more than 2 hours. So what does he do? We've all seen the picture. It is, as Tucker calls it, it's the picture that defines this era. He's at a restaurant, the most expensive restaurant in the country, one of the most critically acclaimed restaurants with the bizarre name, the French Laundry. which I guess it's just the way to be. We're putting the pictures up right now on Facebook. Let's count the ways, Turtleboy, that Gavin Newsom, this slick back sleazeball, violated the rules. I mean, and he lied about it too, by the way. Said he was outside, said it was a small gathering. They were inside. There's a chandelier, there's walls. He's inside. He's got a gathering of at least 12, 13. So he broke that rule. They're not socially distant. They're right next to each other. And none of them is wearing a mask.
The people who were
every rule that he imposed on you and me and everyone and the 40 million people in California, he violated, which means one of two things. He thinks all those rules are bullshit. He thinks they're just arbitrary. Or he wants to die, because he's the kind of guy who would say, you're going to kill people if you don't follow my rules, correct?
Yeah, I mean, can we get a running tab going on how many politicians we've caught without masks on? There's Gina Raimondo's been caught multiple times. Marty Walsh, people forget about that one. We got him, didn't we? We got Karen Polito doing the whole thing at our house. We've seen the governor of, the mayor of Chicago, the space alien there multiple times, like out and about in public. It's just one after another, both Cuomo brothers.
Right.
The list goes on and on of people without masks on. It's brilliant.
Because these are people who they're very vain. I don't think Gavin Newsom, he's got 4 kids. He's very vain, a lot of power. I don't think he wants to die, right? He does not want the virus. He does not want to die. So what's the only other logical conclusion is that he knows it's all a bunch of crap. He knows that the mask mandate, he knows that he knows it's all crap, that even if he gets the virus, he'll be fine. By the way, on top of it all, there are lobbyists from the medical industry, including doctors at the table.
That's the best part. That is
so
the best.
We're listening to men of science and doctors, and he's literally eating. It's $400 a plate, plus wine and other. It's literally, probably $1,000 a head for this dinner, paid for by lobbyists and doctors from the medical industry who are also flouting all the rules. So how you can look at this and think the order to keep your limit your crowd, your family, your gathering at Thanksgiving to under 10 or 8 or 6, or say I need a mask, or say I have to social, and go through all that. How you can think that it's all on the level is beyond me. You have to be the most gullible, naive person to think what Gavin Newsom or Andrew Cuomo or Charlie Baker is telling you is grounded in science and is sound, public policy. It's not. We know that now. None of these people are practicing what they're preaching. But and by the way, get some Newsom, Dave, because he's just his explanation is a bunch of lies. He says, that
a few weeks ago, I was asked to go to a friend's 50th birthday. My wife and I, a friend that I've known for almost 20 years, and a friend that had, put a lot of time and energy into his 50th birthday. It was in Napa, which was in the orange status, relatively loose compared to some other counties. It was to be an outdoor restaurant, and we started the program started at 4 o'clock. It was one of those early reservations. I got there a little bit late at 4:30. And as soon as I sat down at the larger table, I realized it was a little larger group than I had anticipated. And I made a bad mistake. Instead of sitting down, I should have stood up and walked back, got in my car, and drove back to my house.
Just count the lies and the rationalizations, the big, juicy rationalizations. He says, it was early, it's not late. I wasn't breaking curfew, and it was outside. No, it wasn't. And, I didn't think it'd be a big group, but, it was. And it was a really special occasion. It was his 50th birthday from a good friend. And you're sitting there going, wait a second. You don't make those exceptions for the 40 million people in your state.
Time out. The biggest crime here is a grown man thinking a birthday is something worth celebrating. It's like it's my birthday. What are you, a 21-year-old college co-ed? You're 50. You're a grown man. You're celebrating your birthday. We have to go out for my birthday. It's such a special day. It's my big special day. No, nobody cares about your birthday. Every day is somebody's birthday. You're a grown man. I mean, Jesus, just admit it. You want to go out to a fancy restaurant with your lobbyist friends who gave to your campaign. That's all this is.
Doesn't that sound awful? Like the Facebook Live commenters are pointing out they have $15,000 bottles of wine, $300 bottles, plates of pasta, and appetizers, $500. It's the most expensive place, and you got you can see 12, 13 people there. You're talking a tab of like $10,000. They better.
Yeah. And who do you think they voted for that county?
But that's of course they vote. And by the way, another rationalization: it was orange and not red. So in the orange zones, Governor, are you allowed to not wear a mask? Are you allowed to not socially distance? Are you allowed to have 12, 13 people? He broke all the rules. Doesn't matter what zone.
Yeah. So we're all 12 people at the table from that zone.
He wasn't.
So if you're not from that, if you don't live in that zone, if you live in a red zone and you go to an orange zone, what the hell does it matter? You're coming from a place with more COVID, right? And you're bringing, so it can't spread here because it's orange here. It's not as flammable.
At what point, Aiden, and I know you're our own little Aubrey Huff over here. You're the anti-masking rebel. I know that you went to vote. You wouldn't put your mask on. Some old lady from the woman's the local nursing home who's counting the votes made you wear a mask and you refused, right?
They tried.
All right. So at what point can we stop pointing out what hypocrites, what tyrants, what authoritarians these politicians are? And we've lived through it in Massachusetts. We have Charlie Baker, who's as bad as any of them, and Cuomo and Whitmer and Murphy and Newsom and Hogan and Pritzker. They're all awful people. They're all awful bullies. When do we say it's not their fault? We know what they were. These people will vote. You're right. California will vote for Newsom. New York, I believe in 2 years, will vote for Andrew Cuomo, who has been exposed as the biggest asshole, the biggest bully, the biggest thug in American politics. And by the way, has the blood of at least 12,000 seniors on his hand. He'll get reelected. And I realize it's not
there will be no campaign either. He doesn't have to do anything. It's a foregone conclusion he will win.
And there'll be some people like Janice Dean, there'll be some, Republican PACs who will put a commercial together and say, he killed, a number of senior citizens. He refused to take responsibility. And they'll say, yeah, whatever. I like the Cuomos. I like Mario. And Chris seems like a good kid. And they'll vote for him.
It's exactly
vote for Newsom. Our system is so screwed up, and right now it's more screwed up than ever.
The founding fathers had it right about not everyone should vote, and it shouldn't be along racial lines. It should be along intellectual lines. Like the masses, the rubes, the people throwing rocks at British soldiers and stuff like that. They don't get to vote. You're useful for the revolution, but let the intellectuals vote. We'll take care of this. You guys are obviously more. That's how these politicians win. Is they want every bum and other moron who's never voted before to show up and vote because they know that that's the only way they can keep their jobs.
And and all we do, all the Democrats in the machine do is try to make it easier. My idea was always you get a blank piece of paper and it says, not blank. It says president, and it's got a little line. It says governor line, and you have to literally spell the name of the person you want to vote for. That would eliminate half the Democrats. You think half of them spell Cuomo? It'd be out. I mean, Baker, that's a tough one. They'd be out. You literally have to write the name Trump or Biden, and if you spell it wrong or leave it blank or whatever, into the trash. But we've already learned that Democrats have so many new and innovative ways to steal.
Mayor Pete will never be president, Jerry, if that happens. You're killing Mayor Pete.
That's true. Good. Let him. He can change his name if he wants. Good. Yeah. But you got to literally write the name of the person. That's not asking too much. That's not a poll tax. That's just a test to make sure you're paying attention.
It's a literacy test. It's definitely got a little Jim Crow to it, but as long as it's
All
not
right,
long.
how about you just have to write his first name? All you have to write is Pete.
I guess that works. I guess
It's amazing
you
that
can always say Chasten's last name. Isn't that an option?
it
I
just
never learned how
seems
that works. Who decides who gets whose last name in a gay couple relationship like that?
they arm wrestle for it. They arm
Oh,
wrestle.
you do? Okay.
Yes, they do. I know. It's
Thank
Pete.
you for clarifying.
Didn't Buttigieg's husband take the name? His husband has the name Buttigieg, I believe.
I would assume so. I'm assuming so. I mean, it seems like the right thing to do. Like
I would just pick the coolest. I'd pick the coolest name. Like Buttigieg, I wouldn't pick. I don't know what the other guy's name is, but I'd go with that.
Awful. It must be just awful if they went with Buttigieg. God knows what his Chasten's last name is. God forbid. I have
But
no
you
idea.
get to stick with your. I mean, if your name is Buttigieg,
Right.
people just call you Mayor Pete. They shorten it. They find that as nickname.
Yeah.
But it'll be funny because not funny. But you're right, Cuomo, Baker, these absolute disasters. These people have destroyed their states. They'll get reelected because they got D's next to their name, or in Baker's case, they got Rhino next to his name. By the way, there was a story, I didn't read it. It was on Twitter from the Globe, and the headline was, Baker is more likely to get selected for the Biden cabinet than Liz Warren. So Charlie Baker, this Rhino, this guy who should be kicked out of the Republican Party, this guy who's done nothing but destroy business in Massachusetts for the last 9 months, might end up in D.C. as a cabinet member for a liberal Democrat. And I'm thinking, what's the difference? I mean, Charlie Baker, Liz Warren, tell me what the big difference is. One pretended to be an Indian, the other pretended to be a Republican. They're a couple of frauds. Who cares? Go, Charlie. Who cares? You could have the most liberal governor right now. It would be no different than having Charlie Baker. No, it'd be no different. You could have Andrew Cuomo, Gavin Newsom. They're no different.
It would be a little different. I think I said this in the last show. It gets worse than this, Jerry. Trust me. Like Charlie Baker is bad. He does 99% of the things he does is awful. But at least the one thing he's said right, he hasn't done anything, is said like we should be back in school. That's
the judges. He picks judges, and it's all based on what color they are, what sex they are. No, we get the first female, Hispanic, one-legged, judge with a club foot and a hair lip. Congratulations. I mean, it's all he does. He's bought into the identity politics. He doesn't care about their ideology. He just picks based on groups. Oh, we'll pick a black woman. We'll pick Hispanic, gay, transgender man. I mean, that's all he does. He's a Democrat. But anyway, don't get me caught up on Charlie Baker. We got to get back to Cuomo because I feel the tide is turning a little bit. Again, he'll probably get reelected in 2 years, but if he gets embarrassed, if he becomes a national joke for 2 years, it could be fun. Yesterday, and he's not even, he thinks he's one of these people who thinks he's really smart and in control when he's not. In New York, they shut down schools, 1,800 schools, over 1 million students, the largest school system in America, New York public schools, shut them down because, I don't know, someone told de Blasio, that fool, that there was a spike. Of course, the spike is in 75-year-olds and elderly people and obese people, but we can't have 6-year-olds going to school.
Do you know anybody that raises kids in New York?
I don't now know.
So first of all, I can't sympathize with anybody who does. It's kind of weird, but a lot of people obviously do, and most people who do, if you can afford to raise children,
you get them out.
You're wealthy. Okay, like you're wealthy. You're
no, it's just the opposite. It's just the opposite. The wealthy. Did you see Megyn Kelly? She just pulled her kids. She's got 3 kids with funny names. Just pulled them all out of the public school system and put them in private school. That's what you do. That's what Gavin Newsom did. Gavin Newsom shut down the public schools in California and put his 4 kids in private schools. So
you arguing with? You just agreed with me that in order to live in New York City, right, and send your kids, you have to be somewhat wealthy. And school.
Have you ever driven through the Bronx?
Yes, Jerry, I've driven through the Bronx, but there's also significant parts of Brooklyn and Manhattan and the Upper West Side. It doesn't look that nice, but it's extremely.
You think they put their kids in public school? And come on, think about what you're saying.
Many of these people put their kids in public schools. Yes,
they do not. They do not.
Okay. Either way, the bottom line is when these kids, the parents aren't going to stop working. The parents have to keep working, and they have to commute to the city, and they have to go to the office, and they have to make their $250,000 a year, and they have to do that. So what are they going to do with the kids? They're not just going to leave them home alone. They're going to find these, what they're called, like pods, like learning pods. They're propping up at the YMCA and stuff like that, in which 50 kids gather in a room, and they sit on their computers, and they do their remote learning and their monitor, which, by the way, completely defeats the purpose of closing schools. If kids are just gathering in other places, then why are we closing schools?
Because people like de Blasio and Cuomo want you to know they're in control. They're doing something. And they're hard left liberals, which means they're puppets of the teachers' unions. And as you have chronicled as well as anyone, teachers' unions don't care about children. They don't care about learning. They don't care about schools. They don't care about families. They care about keeping the vacation going. If you're a teachers union official, your goal when you get up in the morning is say, we've had a 9-month vacation, paid vacation. Let's keep it going. So let's exaggerate the threat. Let's pretend 6, 7-year-olds are in danger of getting the virus, giving the virus, dying from the virus. And you know what? It works on stupid people. I mean, anyone with a brain who reads up knows that a 6 and 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 10-year-old like you have, those kids belong in school. Everyone knows it. I mean, it's insane to think this is a logical reaction to a spike in cases of the virus, to keep kids, children, elementary school children home, kids who can't do remote learning because they're too young, or they have, attention deficit problems, or they're special needs or whatever. You're torturing that child and that family. But again, they're Democrats. They don't care about kids. They don't care about families. They care about teachers' unions. They care about nursing unions. They care about the media, academia. They care about special interests. And it's madness right now that you're telling 1 million kids in New York, families, and you're wrong. Most of the families are not wealthy. Most of the families, half the kids of the 1.1 million kids, half of them rely on the free school lunch, school breakfast program, and they're screwed. They're home eating whatever they can find. Probably getting a bag of sweet tarts for lunch, right, or Swedish fish for breakfast, because they can't go to school and have a healthy breakfast. But again, these teachers unions, Cuomo, de Blasio, they don't care about kids. That's clear. But there was a great exchange because one reporter, I don't know, he accidentally did a little journalism. That doesn't often happen. From the Wall Street Journal, grilled Cuomo. And this is a guy, Cuomo, as we know, a bully who's used to getting his ass kissed by the media, and he couldn't handle it. He came unglued yesterday, and it was a blast to watch.
When we did an orange zone and a red zone in Brooklyn and Queens, and we closed the schools, don't you remember that?
It was 3 weeks ago.
Okay, so what are you talking about? What are you talking about? You're now going to override. We did it already. That's the law. An orange zone and a red zone. Follow the facts.
I'm still confused.
Well, then you're confused.
I'm confused, and
then I'll tell you what you mean.
Parents are still confused as well. The schools
Oh,
in
they're
New
not
York City
confused.
tomorrow.
You're confused.
No, I think
Read
parents
the
are
law.
very confused as well.
Read the law, and you won't be confused.
But Governor, to follow Jim's question, are the schools going to be open tomorrow?
The schools are open by state law.
But will they be open tomorrow? That's the question. I think Jimmy's correct in asking that question. I don't think it's obnoxious at all.
Well, I don't really care what you think. Of course, you agree with him because you're in the same business with him.
You gotta love it. It's cartoonish. They're such great villains.
The best part, he's wrong. Schools were closed. He's wrong. The reporters were right. That's why they were in disbelief. And it went on for a while, too. He stood up and he started yelling at him, and he was wrong. And he's not.
Cuomo brothers, Jared, need to be like a tag team wrestling thing or something. Like, just they need their own spin-off show where they just go around collecting money from people or something. They're such freaking hardos that you can't even go, we did it already. And I love the condescending attitude. Like, oh, you don't know about this? Oh, you should read about this. And he was wrong the whole time. The schools were closing.
The guy's name is Jimmy Valkind from the Wall Street Journal, and his beat is the New York City or New York State or whatever. So he was obviously familiar with Cuomo, but at some point, maybe not the whole mainstream media, but maybe the mainstream media that knows him, that knows Cuomo, will turn on him and make him uncomfortable, which would be great. Because again, he's got 2 years. He thinks he's handling this crisis. He wrote a book. Isn't that amazing? No one has done a worse job of handling this crisis. No one has been exposed more than him. And he wrote a book on leadership during the crisis. Now, I grant that nobody bought it, nobody will read it, but can you just try to grasp the gall, the chutzpah it takes to say, you know what I'm going to do in the middle of this? I'm going to write a book boasting and bragging about what a wonderful job I've done. It's just remarkable. And, again, with some in the media, he'll get away with it. He did a Q&A last night. Did you see this? With Billy Joel. Billy Joel did a obviously virtual Q&A with the governor, Cuomo, and I'm sure they had some yucks and some laughs. I don't know if you could find it, Cullinane, but Janice Dean and others were dogging him, saying, are you going to talk about all the people you killed, etc.? But he sat down with Billy Joel, did a Q&A about leadership during a crisis.
I mean, we didn't start the pandemic. Is that what he's going to spin off song about?
What is the next step? Now we've reached, it feels like peak madness. And every day I say this, I see these tweets or these stories and I say, we've reached another level of insanity. Yesterday it was the state of Oregon, their governor, Kate Brown, coming out and saying they're limiting the gatherings to 6. Now, I believe New York is 10, California is 10, in Oregon, which has got a lot of space, doesn't it? I've never been there. I'm never going there. But I've seen videos of, their fine citizens burning things and looting and trashing, but they've got space. 6 is the limit. Fortunately, a couple of weeks ago, they put a referendum on the ballot and they legalized all drugs, heroin, cocaine, crystal meth, acid, you name it. So you can't have more than 6. She said yesterday, I can get the number, but you are facing a fine of, I believe, $500 and potential jail sentence if you violate her edict. But if they break in and catch you with more than 6, here it is. Parties of more than 6 will spend 30 days in jail and face a fine up to $1,250. This is from the governor. If you have more than 6 at your Thanksgiving Day party, 30 days in jail, $1,250 fine, which is more than any looter got for burning a police station or, beating up a shopkeeper. They go out in 10 minutes. But if you have 5 people, you could sit around, shoot heroin, snort coke, do crystal meth, no problem. That is legal.
Marty Walsh will give you a whole street.
Right.
Give you a whole street just for that.
So this is November 19th, 18th. What's next? I was thinking this yesterday. What's next? When you see, and I'll tell you, I'll give you a hint because I was thinking this yesterday. What's next? And this pops up, a story out of Greece. Now, maybe these things start in Greece. We know the virus. In Greece, you now must text local authorities before you leave your home and tell them in a text why you're leaving your home.
Oh, it sounds. What could possibly go wrong with that? They know where you're going. This
if you're going to, Stop and Shop or you're going to Dunkin' Donuts, you have to text. I assume if you live in a town, you assume your town manager, maybe a selectman. I'm in the city. I'm going to have to text Marty Walsh. Marty, I am going to the liquor store. Be home in 20 minutes. That sounds comical. That's happening.
Is there somebody who monitors like a stream of text messages? Do you know what I mean? And then approves or denies?
Well, the burgeoning bureaucracy, they're laying off nobody. The bureaucracy just gets bigger and bigger. Yes, someone's job it'll be to look at the texts and approve it. Say, oh, you don't have to go to the liquor store. And how about if you text them and say, I am going to go out and do some looting with my BLM friends. We are going to burn some Bibles and trash a T-Mobile store. Okay, I'll text you when I get home.
I'm going to John Lewis.
We'll blast Rage Against the Machine, so it's all going to be okay. We'll blast that. Yeah.
Rage Against the Machine is now.
By the way, come on. I screwed that up, Jerry. That was a parody account I retweeted.
What?
That thing the thing you're citing right now was a parody account. I retweeted that by accident.
Rage Against the Machine?
Well,
what are you talking about?
Rage Against the Machine thing. Rage Against the Machine. I tweeted out a thing. I think this is what you're referring to. I retweeted.
Oh, okay. So I will. I did the same thing. I saw you and I did it.
Yeah, I fell for it.
We were duped. It's
so believable.
Moderately rational.
It's so believable.
Yeah.
Rage Against the Machine would so tell you to wear a mask right now. Like that is. I mean, think about like Sacha Baron Cohen, like all these people that were funny a while back and edgy, right. Howard Stern have all done gotten woke. So that would be the least surprising thing ever. If
it wouldn't surprise me. Tom Morello's a radical, and I wouldn't surprise me at all if he's working for Biden. But you're right. It's Sacha Baron Cohen is demanding that Facebook censor conservatives. Yeah, Chelsea Handler, this edgy, once edgy comedian, now washed up pickled hag, is demanding Facebook. She's literally calling out Mark Zuckerberg and saying, "Why don't you do something about whoever, about Tucker Carlson or Sean Hannity or Steve Bannon is their new boogeyman, or Rudy Giuliani? How can you allow this? How can you allow such speech? It offends me, hurts my delicate sensibilities." That's so crazy.
Liberalism is the machine at this point. Like you can't, if you're part of the left, you've become the establishment. Like every major corporation backs your causes. They you have institutional control. You are the machine. The left is the machine now. So what are you raging against? They used to rage against the right. You got George Bush. Now they are the establishment. So now what?
Well, I was walking through Boston Common the other day. I think I mentioned this, and there was one of these protests against everything Trump and make him leave office. And you got these little phony Antifa losers, and they get their nose rings, and and in the middle of it all is Ed Markey. Ed Markey, they're surrounding and fawning, and they're like in awe of Ed Markey, this career hack politician. He's leading these alleged rebels. You're right. Here's what these people who think they're rebels, who think they're outsiders, raging against the machine. They're now on the same side as the media, the entire mainstream media, like 98% of the media, Hollywood, academia, Silicon Valley, Wall Street. Those are all on the side of the rebels. And that, if you want to know why Antifa can run wild in the cities, is because the anarchists and the Black Lives Matter rioters are on the same side as the government, the mayors, the city councilors.
I mean, you know who rages against the machine? Donald Trump raged against the machine.
Right.
Like he got Mad Dog Mattis to quit. Like a guy who's infamous with
a good one. Put on that list the military-industrial complex. So the people like Tom Morello, these rebels who want to burn it all down, I'm going to go through the list again, are on the same side as Hollywood, academia, Silicon Valley, Wall Street, the big corporations, Amazon, Target, Home Depot, Walmart, all those on the same side, and the mainstream media. They're all on one side. On the other side, the rebels now are Kayleigh McEnany,
Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and
Sarah. They're the rebels. Sarah Huckabee Sanders. You're absolutely right, and the machine will win. I'll say it again. I'll say it every day. I'm convinced of two things: that Donald Trump will leave office on January 20th. Biden-Harris will take over, and they stole the election. They cheated their asses off, and they won. Hats off to them. They pulled it off. They found a way, mostly through mail-in ballots, mostly through ballot harvesting, dead people, throwing away Trump ballots, they found a way to steal the vote in these big cities in Philadelphia and Atlanta. They found a way. We're going to find out over the next 4 years all the ways they did it, but they did it. They did it. They, by hook or crook, they looked at Trump as evil. They said, we must stop him. All rules are out. No rules. Let's go. And they did it. So congratulations to them. But here's the other, and you just mentioned it, and I want to get into it because, and although I didn't mention to wrap up the COVID talk, This story just broke, I believe, last night. It's big. Oh, shit. We didn't get to the mask study either.
I thought that's what you were talking about.
No, but for first, this other big study. Walking your dog gives you COVID.
You're in trouble.
It's true. Walking your dog. A tweeter point makes a good point. In Oregon now, you can't have 6 people, but 5 people can sit around and do cocaine, but they can't use plastic straws because that would be against the law.
Wait, I thought we got rid of that stuff because of COVID. I thought we got rid of.
Oh no, it's back. It's back.
All right, just making
It's
sure.
back. But walking your dog, I'm not even sure like who. I tweeted this study out this morning, but I'm not sure who came up with this. Somehow, like the COVID like stays on the dog's like fur or something, and then you bring it home and give people COVID. I don't know. It's totally made up. It's totally bullshit. I'm sure. It's silly, but that was one study. The other study, which got a lot more traction yesterday, was this Danish study, and I read it last night. And you want to know the interesting part? I mean, you knew it was coming. They in a random study of 5,000 and something people, half with mask, half without, they came to the conclusion that masks are useless, and they sure did. You can quibble and say, oh, but what if you do the, no, read the study. There's no difference in the transmission rate, whether you're masked up or not. There's none. And we knew this would come. You know what, Aiden, you and I knew this day would come, but we thought they would suppress it. They tried. This study was rejected by at least 3 medical journals, not because of the method or the science, but because of the politics, including the New England Journal of Medicine. They rejected this study, which was painstaking and it revealing, and they wouldn't publish it because it's the politics of masks is important. And if you're the New England Journal of Medicine, which is a left-wing publication, you wanted no part of this. But here's the headline of the New York Times story, and I didn't read it. I just Googled it. And it says, study finds masks are ineffective, but you should wear them anyway. That's the study, the New York Times takeaway.
I mean, isn't that opinion when they said that? Like, I thought they just reported straight facts. I love that headline when I saw them put it out. They don't work, but you should use them anyway. Why? Why? That's your opinion. That's like, so you're no longer reporting the news. You're reporting the news and then giving your opinion on that news. And it's stupid.
This is literally, it goes away when I click on it because I don't subscribe to New York Times, but it literally says study questions whether masks protect wearers. No, it doesn't. It says masks don't protect wearers. You need to wear them anyway. Masks prevent people, blah, blah, blah. I can't even read it again because I don't subscribe to this rag, but that's the headline. Masks don't work, but you should wear them anyway. And you know what, Aiden? That's the deal now. You know it and I know it. You still have to wear them if you go to a grocery store, a CVS, or a restaurant until you sit down. We now know, according to the study, that they're ineffective, but we got to wear them anyway because of politics.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense, doesn't it, Jerry?
Well, the same newspaper published an article yesterday about how it's really good to wear masks during vigorous exercising, including running outside. So they're all over the place over there.
By the way, I was gonna cancel. I was supposed to cancel on you guys today because today was supposed to be the first day of kindergarten for my daughter, and I wanted to bring her to the bus stop and do all that stuff. But then 24 hours before that, of course, they decide that they're going to just cancel it till January 19th because COVID. That's just what everybody's doing now. So,
well, that's because you're all traveling for the holidays and you have to quarantine for 2 weeks after.
Right. Exactly. So we're just going to do that. We're just going to cancel school for 2 weeks before and after every major holiday moving forward. Does Valentine's Day count?
No, that's like a birthday. No, it doesn't count.
Day? Okay, I don't know.
Well, it was. I don't know how many people work for the Manchester Public Schools, but I think it was like 9% of people on a survey of the entire staff said that they were traveling for Thanksgiving, and they made this decision based off that 9% to cancel to go to remote learning till mid-January. Yep. It's just wild.
It just gets crazier, and they don't want to hear about these studies. They could, I mean, Fauci, the Saint Fauci, the guy who is worshipped by the left, who Biden promises to listen to. And by the way, when the hell is Trump going to fire him? He knows that his supporters, like you and me, want him to fire him.
What's the point? I'm just going to rehire him.
The point is that I'd like to see it. Wouldn't you like to see someone?
That's just MAGA porn. That's just MAGA porn on the way out. Like, what's the point? He's just going to get.
So we want a little MAGA porn.
It's a MAGA porn.
We want to do these meaningless gestures like fire Fauci and end the war in Afghanistan. These silly MAGA things just to placate us. Yeah. But Fauci says that we have to wear masks even after the vaccine. So the vaccine's going to eliminate the virus, which is just the most amazing thing when you think about we have 2 vaccines in the matter of 4 months, 5 months. We don't have a vaccine for AIDS. We don't have vaccines for lots of things. Trump made it happen. If there were President Biden, President Hillary, we would have no vaccine. We'd just have to live with this virus forever. But we're going to get a vaccine. And this idiot Fauci says, doesn't matter. We still need to wear masks and social distance and wash your hands and not go to games and concerts and everything. It's going to be weird because people like him are never going to let this go. They're never going to say, we don't need control of your lives anymore. Just go live your lives. Yeah. That's never going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, why would they? This is the easiest thing they've ever had to do in their entire lives. Think how much easier your job is when buildings aren't open, less people are on the road, there's less things you have to worry about. It's got to be great for these politicians.
I know, and if you're Fauci, you live for this. You've been in the government 50 years, and now you're famous, you're powerful, you're worshipped by one side of the aisle. Every day, all you do is show up at work and do interviews. I mean,
what did he do for work before COVID? Like, what was he doing all day?
He was handling the AIDS. There are some gay activists who hate him because he was so bad in the reaction to the AIDS epidemic in the 80s. You can read about it. But I don't know. I'm sure he's doing like most bureaucrats. He was showing up late, leaving early. He never looked out the window in the morning. Because he needed something to do in the afternoon. That's important.
That's true. I feel like it's like an epidemiologist. Without a pandemic, you kind of have nothing to do. So it's kind of like the pandemic industrial complex, like the COVID complex. Like, these people need work too, Jerry. They got to pay their bills. Like, make them feel like they have a reason to exist.
I think you and I and people like us have some good laughs at the expense of these fools, even the ones who are controlling our lives, because we know how full of crap they are. But I don't laugh when I look at the resistance to Donald Trump's promise that he's trying to keep about ending our endless wars. And I see the people who want to stay there, and I just get this. I go into this, rage against the machine when I see and hear these friggin' people that want to just stay in these quagmires in these shithole countries forever. We will talk about a couple of those after I talk about Shea Concrete. Yes, Shea Concrete. You know all about it. This is for you homeowners and home builders. Shea Concrete has a huge selection of precast concrete steps for you. Whether you're one of those home builders building a new home or one of those home owners looking to improve your home and increase the value of your home, Shea has great values with designs for any of those homes. Available in concrete, you can customize the steps with beautiful stone, granite, or brick. A new staircase can dramatically upgrade the front entrance of your home. In most cases, the good folks at Shea can remove the old stairs and have you walking up the new front steps within hours. That's it, nothing. You do nothing except sit in the window and watch them work. If it's cold outside, stay inside, light a fire, and watch these guys do the job that will improve your home. It's an investment. It's not you're not buying it. You're investing in your home with new precast concrete steps. Learn all about it at SheaConcrete.com, or just give them a call. Give them a call. Tell them you want to see and hear all about their wonderful precast concrete steps.
Hey, Jerry, before you go on to that, I just looked up because you can't get sound of it. That Cuomo Billy Joel event was online only, $36.50 a ticket for a online only Zoom
no way
watch along interview. Billy Joel interviewing Cuomo about his book. Everybody who bought a ticket gets a signed copy of the book. It was completely promotional. There was not
$36.
There was not one angle of charity involved in this little effort. Yeah,
Who would
Can you
ever?
You can't find out how many people did it, can you? There's no way to find that out.
Yeah, it was sold. Yeah, it's sold.
Can't be more than 12 people who did it. I mean, did Billy Joel sing a song?
I don't know. It's behind a paywall, so you can't see anything from it.
Hopefully, someone at the New York Post. I bet you someone at the New York Post did it, signed up.
Yeah, it must have
That's the kind of shit that I would just buy just to screen record it and web stream it, just to prove that I can. Like, I'll pirate your shit. Like, you can't do this. No.
We talked about this earlier before we came on. Some of these people who I realized that people just hate Trump, and that's, Mitt Romney hates Trump, Ben Sass hates Trump. But what you're talking about a war. I guess it's still a war. It's this mess we're in Afghanistan. We've been there for 19 years and 1 month. We started October 7th, 2001. We're still there. There are guys, girls on the ground in Afghanistan who weren't born when it started. And they're now fighting in this endless war. I would think, and I have some liberal friends and family members, I would think it's some common ground we could all find. We have no reason to be there. We've been there way too long. It's time to come home. Trump promised to do it. Why he didn't do it before the election, I will never understand. Maybe someone close to him, maybe some advisor said, oh, no, it said what Mitt said, that it's too premature. But watch and listen to some of the people who are advocating for staying there, who are insisting we stay there. They're literally saying things, Aiden, like it would be premature to leave now. It would be irresponsible. And I'm thinking 20 years is not enough. How much is enough? 40 years, 50? Are we supposed to stay in Afghanistan, this worthless, landlocked shithole country, forever?
Which, by the way, no country or empire in the history of the world has. Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, the British Empire, the Soviets. The Soviet Empire literally crumbled because Afghanistan turned into their Vietnam, and we funded it. And it's like, so that's the only place on earth no one can ever conquer, no matter how powerful your army is, because who would want to? They have no beaches. It's just a bunch of rocks and terrible people. But according to Dan Crenshaw, who's just destroyed his own political career on Twitter in the last 48 hours, according to him, Jerry, girls are graduating from school there now. So that's what America does now. We invade foreign countries. We build things so that girls can go to school in Kabul.
And we protect their borders, and build things. We can't protect our border. If we put the military on our border, no, that would be xenophobic and bigoted and racist. But we could protect their borders, build their schools, build their wastewater treatment plants, and there's nothing in the Constitution that says that's what our military is used for. There's no vital interest. And some people, I think Crenshaw, among others, said, you're just going to invite Al Qaeda or to go back in and build camps. And I'm like, fine, we'll just bomb them. We'll just bomb the camps. How long this war's lasted 19 years. You know how long it should have lasted? About 19 weeks. Literally, we eliminated, I think it was even less. I think it was about 10 weeks. We eliminated the Al Qaeda camps, and bin Laden was on the run within a couple of months. We've been on there 20 years. And if you've seen the movie Outpost, and I don't recommend you pay for it because Jake Tapper gets some of the money. He's the writer. And I hate Jake Tapper, but it does a good job. It's not a good movie in terms of character development or anything, but it gives you a great sense of the hopelessness, the worthlessness of our presence there, and we're just there, to occasionally fight off some Taliban, scum. But there's no land worth fighting over. There's no whatever beaches. God knows there's no treasure unless you count opium. There's no treasure there. There's no vital. It's just an awful place.
Great question, Jerry. If the idea is that we go into these countries, we have this moral obligation to rebuild them and take out the dictator, why haven't we done that to North Korea? What's worse than North Korea? How has that not been justified? Why is Afghanistan and Iraq places we want to?
It's a good point. If it's bad people bad, scary people, then there's other places we could go where there are bad, scary people.
Yeah, like New York City.
Right. I was going to say go to, Europe, but
Lawrence.
Here's the other thing I find, and rarely, you mentioned Dan Crenshaw, and that he stands out because he's a decorated veteran, combat veteran, who is not in favor of ending this endless war. Show me another one, because I follow lots of these guys, these Johnny Jones and Robert O'Neill, and these guys who have been there, who fought there, who friends died there. Robert O'Neill killed bin Laden. He accomplished the mission, and he just knows how foolish it is. When we had Robert O'Neill on this podcast, and I talked to him about how different and how primitive and how hopeless they are as a people. And you listed all the people who tried to conquer them. We've tried to, modernize them and turn it into a democracy, which was hopeless from the beginning. And in his book, Robert O'Neill, which is excellent, The Operator, he points out at one of the guys he's working with, one of these commanders of the local forces, who believed that I believe the sunset was a dragon blowing out the sun. Every day a dragon blew out the sun, and that was the sunset. This was a leader of men. That's the kind of people you're dealing with. They believe in dragons, and when they see the sun go down, they think a dragon just blew out the fire. And he's going, what the hell? What are we dealing with here?
I mean, it's barely a nation. It's just literally a bunch of tribes. They reject the idea of central government. Everything there is tribal. They don't want to be conquered. It's just some places are damned by God. And Afghanistan is one of the, we're not going to conquer the North Pole either. It's okay. We don't have to conquer everything.
Trump tried to buy Greenland, so give him credit. He tried.
He gave it a shot. That'd be a great
night. On Twitter, and I see this guy. His name is John Jackson. He's a veteran. He's, in fact, it's Matthew Modine in Full Metal Jacket is his avatar, but he's got a picture of himself, and his bio is MAGA, Patriot, and tweets about the military a lot. And he says he was in Afghanistan, spent a lot of time in Afghanistan. The second we dropped OBL and his network, we should have pulled the plug and never looked back. The phrase "godforsaken" was meant for that shithole, a land so covered in blood and suffering that its ghosts stalk your dreams. This is a veteran who's been there, who knows how hopeless it is. So we got Robert O'Neill and John Jackson and endless numbers of veterans who've been there who know how hopeless it is. Then you have people like Dan Crenshaw, politicians. Tammy Duckworth. Now, God bless her service. She lost her legs in war. We respect her service and her opinion. But she said, we want to bring our troops home. We just don't want to bring them home in body bags. And I thought about that for a moment. I looked at it, and then I kind of tweeted and said, I'm confused. So if we pull our troops out, that means they'll die?
I think they're going to die they're going to get coronavirus, and they're going to die on the plane ride over, Jerry.
From walking their dogs? They're going to walk their dogs?
Not enough PPP.
Oh, good point. Good point. So they're not even thinking straight. Mitt Romney, who, God knows, he has no idea what it's like in this war zone. He has no idea what people like Robert O'Neill lived through, said there is no clear he said no clear case has been made for ending this war. So we need a clear case to convince Mitt Romney that Afghanistan is not worth another American life. It's not worth another American dollar. It just
now we need excuses not to have wars. We don't need justification for war. We need justification not to have war. So basically the default is war. And until you can come up with a reason not to go to war, we're just going to keep going to war. I mean, imagine
if we weren't there, with the case to be made for going into Afghanistan, it would be, they're not letting the girls go to school, or they don't have, running water in this village. Let's send our military. And you go, are you insane? That's not what our military is for. So I'm just took a quick look. Who's for continuing this endless war? Mitt Romney, Ben Sass, Mitch McConnell, I guess Tammy Duckworth. Who's against it? Robert O'Neill, John Jackson, and I believe Josh Hawley and others. I mean, why can you just help me out? Why can't Trump end it today? We know many in the military-industrial complex will defy his orders.
They're counting votes in Nevada. They found 846 ballots in a box somewhere that they were miscounted. James O'Keefe did a video on it. They're about to flip that state, Jerry, any day now.
Let me guess, a bombshell coming? A bombshell?
Bombshell. There's a bombshell coming. Stay tuned, Rudy said.
I respect that. I support that. I want Trump's troops on the ground. I want Lynn Wood and Sidney Powell. I want them fighting to the death, to the end. I don't think
they're worried about their reputation at all once this, because nothing's going to happen, obviously, and Joe Biden's going to be the president.
What do you mean nothing's happened? They've exposed all kinds of fraud. All kinds of fraud. Not enough.
These people are guaranteeing Trump is going to be the president.
Okay, that's stupid, but I want them fighting every day to expose this fraud. Yes, I want them demanding recounts. Yes, we have to do it for the next election. We have to send a signal that you can't do this again. We have to get rid of mail-in ballots.
You got to
have observers. We have to have observers on the ground, not just in Philadelphia, but in all these big corrupt cities. Yes, this is something they have to do for the next election. You think things will change in Georgia now if we fight them to the death and prove that there's all kinds of shenanigans going on in Atlanta? Yes, we have to do this. Hold their feet to the fire, because in 2 months, less than 2 months, we have a real important election, and we have to send a signal, a message. They will not steal this one. But anyway, why can't Trump end the war right now? Why can't he just say, we're done, we're going home?
Like I said, I honestly think he's busy. He's got other things. He could have. Why couldn't he do a lot of things? Why couldn't he build a wall? Why couldn't he have an executive order saying everyone can use Twitter and Facebook? Like, he could have done a lot of things, but he's very busy.
Fund NPR, PBS. Why can't he do
like you? He's watching Saturday Night Live, and he's watching, MSNBC for some reason, and he's listening to what Morning Joe said about him today. He's very busy, Jerry. Very
playing
busy.
Golf. I'll give him credit. He's getting some golf in, which is fine. But all right, a couple more things we got to get to. I had so much on my list, but this I find bizarre. And Tony Romo, we all know, is a really good color man, really good analyst, one of the best ever. He's a pleasure to hear do a game. Sometimes better than others, but he can be funny, he can be insightful. He doesn't have any pretense. He just says what's on his mind. He had his contract was up last year. I think there was obviously a bidding war because he's good. All the networks do football now, NBC, CBS, Fox, ESPN. So they all wanted his services. NBC ended up paying him $17.5 million a year. He makes more than $1 million a game. Last week, they gave him the week off because Jim Nantz was doing the Masters and they didn't want him to do the game with anyone else. And it seems insane that Tony Romo makes more than almost all the players, just sitting up there once a week. Puts in, 2 days of work a week for 20 weeks, and he's making $17 million. Seems insane. Well, Jim Nantz, who we know has a huge ego, he's good at what he does, but he's a play-by-play guy. They're a dime a dozen. Makes $6.5 million. He's demanding to make Tony Romo money. And this is not a rumor. His agent spoke to the New York Post, and there's quotes from his agent, and then there's anonymous quotes. And there's no one else quoted in the story. So his agent is telling the New York Post, telling Andrew Marchand that he wants Tony Romo money. I mean, I guess he has the right to ask and to try and to see what happens. But why wouldn't they just say no? Why would does Jim Nantz think anyone watches a game because of Jim Nantz?
I think he does think that. I think Jim Nantz is one of the best in the business, but I don't, to your point, it wouldn't matter who was there. But don't you think, it is crazy to think a color guy is making $17.5 million and Jim Nantz, who does way more than just football, isn't even in the same stratosphere.
It doesn't matter. All that matters, and I used to tell people like this when I'd like producers in radio, and they'd say they're underpaid. I need to get a raise. I'd say you need leverage. They don't pay you unless they have to pay you. And Romo had other offers. They
Greg Hill and Danielle like that. Trust me.
You don't think Jim Nantz is creating leverage right now? You don't think that NBC, who doesn't know when Al Michaels is going to croak, you don't think that he's creating his own leverage right now to get that money? That's what
he might. But here's the backup guy is Ian Eagle, not Ian Eagle, Ian Eagle, who's pretty good. If they put Ian Eagle with Romo tomorrow doing the game, Sunday that he's doing the Patriots game, would that have any effect? Would you say one person would not watch because Jim Nantz is not doing the game? One person.
No, same numbers, not as good of a broadcast, but sure.
Okay, how about Mike Tirico? How about Joe Buck? It's not like Jim Nantz is the only one that can do it. I mean, he's good with Romo. They have good chemistry, but if they stole, like Mike Tirico from NBC or Joe Buck from Fox, would it matter?
No, but I'll tell you what Nantz is going to do, and I don't know the entire business relationship. You mentioned it the other day, right? That the Masters, because they own the tournament, they own everything. They sign 1-year deals every year with CBS. Jim Nantz cannot. He has to be on the Masters. Like and I know
that's how. You know what? It's a good point because I'm reading the story, and they said that could be his leverage of going to the Masters people, who love him and saying threaten CBS that if they get rid of him, they will take the Masters to another network, and they could do that in a heartbeat. But
this is what I wonder. Do you think does the Masters do they pay Nantz or does CBS to do that? Because they might own the entire kind of production.
CBS pays them. CBS pays the Masters, and they pay them a lot less than they're worth, but they pay them what the Masters demands, and the Masters makes all the rules. Unlike every other contract from every other league, a sporting event, Masters is in control, and they love Jim Nantz. You're right. So they might make it happen, but that will be so bizarre to me. Next year, you're watching a football game, the two guys in the booth combined could make $35 million.
That's wild.
$35 million a year for the two guys who are just saying, yeah, it's 3rd and 8. Edelman goes in motion. Cam Newton drops back. He's throwing deep. Oh, it's incomplete. That guy is going to make $17.5 million.
That's not even the wild part of the story. You mentioned it before, is that basically Jim Nantz behind the scenes didn't want Tony Romo broadcasting with anyone else, so they had to eat $1 million last week because Jim Nantz's ego was too big to let Tony Romo do a broadcast with Ian Eagle, which is
how about CBS agreeing to that? It's just insane.
Bananas.
These broadcasters, I mean, think of the ego. Think of the ego.
That kind of salary, Gary, that kind of starting salary, Hunter Biden's going to apply for the job there soon.
What's the first thing Hunter Biden does now that he has free reign at the White House to get in trouble?
There's going to be like a drug room in the White House somewhere, or it's like that's just Hunter's room. Hunter does Hunter things in there. Hunter's friends are coming over, his strange friends, some of his stripper buddies, and they're just close the door, don't ask any questions. What Hunter does in there is his own business.
And you know what happens is he's going to say at first, he's going to say, no pictures, guys, be careful, guys. And then he's going to hit the freaking crack pipe. They're going to pass around the bottle of whatever, Grey Goose. He's going to get wasted. And the next day, there's going to be a picture of this fat ass passed out in the Oval Office with, some hooker giving him a foot job.
Can you smoke crack out of a vape pen yet?
I don't know.
Has that been invented? I feel like that should be. Cully would know.
Just say yes. I'll say yes. So what? What's the matter?
So that way you can. The whole purpose of smoking out of a vape pen is nobody knows what you're smoking, right? It's got no smell or anything like that. That could be the next big thing for Hunter.
Oh, it's probably already happening out there. But there is that room, that windowless room where Clinton and Monica Lewinsky did their thing off the Oval Office. That could become Hunter's little hideaway, but he's angling to have some fun.
That should be a national landmark, the place where he got his first BJ from Monica, because that was, a lot happened because of that. That was pretty historic.
That's a good point.
On this spot, a 24-year-old intern got down on her knees and served her country.
21. She was 21.
She was 21. Okay, so she's 21.
And the blue dress should be in the Smithsonian, shouldn't it?
Absolutely.
Right next to Archie Bunker's chair. You should have the blue dress.
And Linda Tripp's coffin can go right next to it. She can be buried in Arlington.
Maybe it's going to be wild because now we get to find out what's actually on the laptop. We get to see the 14-year-old girl. We get to see more of those videos of him with his crack pipe and getting his foot job. So it'll be interesting. See, you and I were looking at the bright side. The Biden administration. We're going to have some laughs. We're going to have some fun when he's losing it at these press conferences, when he's losing his way and making up words. We're going to have some laughs. And God knows when he names all these corporate guys to the cabinet or to his AOC, and Ayanna Pressley are gonna just go crazy. There's gonna be a wild civil war inside the Democrat Party, and I look forward to it. But anyway, you got to get to remote learning, Turtleboy.
Unfortunately, yeah. I got two of them here.
And you still got the plans for that big Thanksgiving party next week? More than 10 people, no masks?
At least. I won't go if there's under 10. I won't do it.
You know what I'm going to do as a show of support for you being the big, I'm not going to wash my hands at Thanksgiving at all. I go to the bathroom, I don't care. Walk the dog, clean up after him. I'm not going to wash my hands.
So you're doing nothing to change your lifestyle, is what you're saying.
Exactly. Well, I'm not going to social distance, wear a mask, or wash my hands. Screw them. But
you're showing.
All right, that is Turtleboy of TB Daily News fame. You can check out his fine work at TB Daily News, where he exposes the frauds out there. You had a couple good ones this week. I can't remember off the top of my head, but
Peabody one, the Peabody high school one, the teacher that has the wall of murdered cops that they forced to take down. That was a good one. Got more on that.
You're doing a great job of catching these frauds, these hypocrite teachers that don't want to teach, but they don't mind protesting or rioting or looting. There's so many of them. I mean, every time you see one of those, the mug shots out of Portland, half of them are teachers. Dues-paying members of the teachers union. But check that out, tbdailynews.com. Thanks to Turtleboy, and thanks to Shea Concrete and Allied Paving and DCU, and thanks to everybody for listening and subscribing. You must subscribe. That's important. We need subscribers. All you people watching on Facebook Live, put down your whatever computer, your laptop, and go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe. Hit the little subscribe button. We appreciate it. Anything else, Cullinane?
Shout out to the guy who put a Christmas tree in Faneuil Hall last night. Unfortunately, first thing this morning, it was removed, but shout out to him.
Thank God. We can't have those trees.
Yes. And by the way, I am expecting a Jason Whitlock column giving credit to Katie Nolan for bashing ESPN in her latest podcast. Yes.
Yeah, that was rough. Katie Nolan, they laid off 6 of her employees. She does a podcast once a week, and she has 3 producers. And they laid one of them off, and she was all upset. Poor Katie Nolan. It's rough.
Hey, give her credit. She could have sitted out, not said anything. She said something, so I give her credit. That's all.
Yeah, give her credit. Are you going to listen to her podcast?
Every day. Is it on every day? I have no idea when it's on, but I'll listen. Sure.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to go walk my dog and give the whole neighborhood COVID. That's my plan now. We all got to do something. All right. I'm Jerry Callahan. This is the Callahan Podcast, and we will talk to you again soon.